Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Live. Now, filmmaker Lebogang Rasethaba has won a Daytime Creative Emmy Award for outstanding directing for a single camera daytime non-fiction program. The award for him directing a few episodes of the docu-series Home for a leading streaming service. He joins us on Zoom now to tell us more about his award and what this means to him personally. Lebogang, a very good morning to you. A warm welcome to Morning Live. As somebody who's been in the industry for a very long time, speak to us about what this means personally for you.
Sure. What it means personally, I think obviously there's a great deal of gratitude for everybody that's been a part of my journey, both in sort of a creative capacity and also in a personal capacity. And I think about this win as something that is sort of big for me at a personal level, but also a sort of bigger win for the industry at large. And I think it's about trying to figure out how to leverage this for the South African film community, particularly. So yeah, that's what I do. I'm thinking about it more in the context of how we move forward as a film economy and a film community.
Talk to us a little bit about this docu-series Home. What is it about?
It's quite interesting. They essentially profile homes, but they're looking at the design of homes as a way of designing society. So this home in particular that I worked, this episode here, the one in South Africa, it's a house that's built in the Waterberg. It's in these really like thick ravine of bushes. And I think typically what you would do when you build a house is that you would go take all the trees away, completely sanitize it from nature, and then build a house. And that's a lot of how sort of urban architecture works. And here, their theory is that we shouldn't disrupt nature and rather find a way to coexist with nature with some level of equality. So it's not like, where you go and you bash everything and then sort of design your house according to that process, but rather do it in a way that doesn't disrupt nature. And if you think about that at a broader level, it's more like, how can we think about our relationship with nature and particularly through architecture and what that means for designing a society. So, you know what I mean? So it's like about designing a house, but it's also about designing a world.
Speak to us about the experience that came with directing this docu-series, and what did it teach you about yourself?
Change is always difficult to identify on a personal level, but I think, we worked with an American crew, and of course they've got really high standards. And initially I was quite like nervous, and there's a lot of like self-doubt. But throughout the process, it became quite clear to me that, not exclusive to myself, but the people that I was working with, my local crew, were of international quality, and that was quite affirming for me. I think there's always this sense that we've got to wait from sort of validation, particularly in the filming community. In fact, in the whole creative community, we always got to wait for validation from sort of international, measure our ability by international standards, and then that becomes the sort of benchmark for ourselves. But through the process, it kind of was just like, well, we can create our own standards of excellence because we are as good as them, and we can hold our weight in that regard. So that was pretty amazing to see where we are as a film community at large.
I mean, talk to us about directing this project. Some of it was in South Africa and some of it was in Accra, Ghana. Talk to us a little bit about that and how, the two worlds meet.
Again, I, excuse me, think about it. Again, so that one was quite interesting because, I was kind of existed up until that point almost exclusively in a South African context as a South African filmmaker. Yes, I traveled and shot on the continent before, but never at this level. So going to Accra, again, there was always that sense of like understanding what filmmaking means at a broader pan-African level. Where are we as filmmakers on the continent? And it was very interesting, again, to observe those dynamics, ways of working, methodologies, standards, and I think there's a lot that we can learn from each other, and I've always been quite interested in a dialogue on the continent about like how we can benefit from co-productions. I'm quite interested in, like Nollywood as a film market is really amazing. We also know that Ghana, there wouldn't be Nollywood if it wasn't for Ghana. So looking at it through that historical lens and where we are now as a society is really interesting to me because there's a lot of like sameness, but then of course there's a lot of cultural disparities. So I'm really, really excited to see the growth on the continent just holistically and just what all these film economies are doing sort of separately, but also together.
And the transition for you generally, how was that for you from, we know you from commercials and then you are into series now. How settled are you into this? And I don't want to say new role because it's obviously a different off-ramp for you. How was that? Are you settled in it? What did it feel like?
Fortunately for me, yes, I make commercials, but I also have made quite a lot of documentaries. And work kind of sits at this nexus where documentary meets commercial. That's the stuff that I really love, taking sort of high, stratums of human truth and put them through this filter of high production value that comes from commercials. And this project, for me, sat so beautifully at this intersection because it was a documentary, which I'd done a lot of, but the standards, the production value are super, super high. So I was taking everything that I'd learned, in commercials and putting that into a documentary world. So the experience wasn't new, but the standard was, and that was, there was a lot of growth in that for me. And that's what I'm saying. I'm excited to see how we take this and move forward with this, with these highly, highly stylized documentaries that are made through these like really, these like high levels of production value.
All right, Lebogang, congratulations again. Thank you so much for always making time for us. Award-winning director Lebogang Rasethaba on winning the Emmy Award and experience of directing the season's episodes.